Hello, my name is Michael Nimala. Forgive the headset, forgive perhaps the lower quality of this video. My equipment, I'm not even going to talk about the problems I've had, software crashing, everything else. So, first off, I'd like to apologize for any quality, a lack of quality in this production. So, to get started, now this is a video I am making to go along with the report I did for my PLS 250 Law and Social Issues course. The instructor is Susan C. Montalvo Gesser. She is an excellent instructor. I've enjoyed this class very much. I would recommend that if you need to take this course through Brescia University Online, I would highly recommend it. And this video is a companion to go with the report that I wrote for the class about school zero tolerance policies and how they violate the civil liberties of students. The way zero tolerance policies came from an overreaction in the 90s after the Columbine shootings and a few other infamous shootings, and people wanted the violence in schools to stop, which is of course very reasonable. It's an admirable goal. I mean, who wants violence in their kid's school? So what comes from this is the zero tolerance policy, and what has happened is that these zero tolerance policies can be enforced at the will and the whim of school administration. And they have even gone so far, there was a case that I cited because zero tolerance policies not only covers school violence, but they also cover drug issues. There was a case that I cited in my report where there was a young lady who was strip searched in her school by the school nurse and one of the school secretaries after the vice principal didn't believe her that she had nothing to do with this prescription strength ibuprofen being passed around. Now, whether it's prescription strength, it is a prescription strength med. He was looking for it. He had found it on another student. The other student said, well, you know, little Mary over there gave it to me. And so little Mary, who's a straight A student, never had been a problem before, is suddenly in this office, and she's like, sure, search my backpack, search my coat, I don't care. And then this principal, this vice principal, orders a strip search of a 13-year-old student. The last time I checked, in order to do any type of strip searching, search and seizure, anything like that, required a warrant and law enforcement. So we can see how these zero tolerance policies are too much. There have been other incidents, many incidents. There was a young man who calls himself Destiny, gay man, and he was in a school being harassed. He had this, his mother finally just said, here, gave him this flashlight. And in Washington State, a flashlight has been determined to be a magnesium tube that holds batteries that makes light. It is not a weapon. So what she called it a self-defense flashlight because it made a whistling noise and made a spark. Now, I don't know if it was actually one of the taser type flashlights or if it was just one of the ones that makes that loud noise that scares people off. Well, 6 people surrounded this kid. He pulls out the flashlight, sets off the siren to get help. The 6 kids scatter. He puts the light back in his bag and wanders off to class. In class, he is the one who is removed, handcuffed, and charged because he used a weapon. Now, I don't know. When I read the state laws, and I even read the state law for the state he was in, people are not filing the right charges. They're saying, well, you didn't stop him from these kids from harassing him. You didn't look into that. I don't know what they looked into. But the one thing that everybody misses, time and again, and this was one of the points I really wanted to get into my paper, but I talked more about civil liberties. One of the basic rights, I have read the state statutes for Washington. I've read a few other state statutes. I'm very familiar with them. To kind of give you a background, I'm a security professional. I am head of security at a facility, and I've spent my life, I've done self-defense, I have taught self-defense, so I'm aware, I'm very aware of laws and how a person is allowed to defend themselves under what circumstances, and there is nothing in the Washington state statute or any of the other statutes that I've read that excludes children from the right to self-defense. There is nothing in there that says, oh, well, unless a school has a zero tolerance policy, or, well, if the principal says you can't do it. No, it says you have the right to use reasonable force to protect yourself. Even you are allowed to use reasonable force to protect other people as well. Now, we have a huge concern these days about bullies and bullying. And there are people out there who are very nice, very sweet. My own son, who I teach self-defense to, there have been times where I've said, well, Jake, why didn't you just, push him off you? And he's a big kid for his age, and he goes, well, Dad, I don't want to hurt him. He's just a little guy. So Jake, he kind of goes like this and walks away, and that's how he deals with it. And I think that's great. That's how he is. But he knows how to protect himself, and he knows what to do in a self-defense situation. And that's one of these things that parents should do, is teach a child, make a fuss, make a scene, make the biggest scene in the known universe. Don't touch me. Back off. Loud. The voice, don't touch me. No. And when you're talking like that, it attracts attention. And bullies don't like attention. Bullies also don't like hard targets. And if your kid's a hard target, they're going to find somebody else to mess with. And if we teach our kids, I'm not saying, teach them how to climb into an MMA match. I mean, most kids would do fine with just some basic boxing skills. They don't have to know how to break bones. They don't have to, like you see in the wild karate movies where people are flipping through the air. Just some basic boxing so that they know how to defend themselves. They can carry themselves and know, hey, in most situations, I'm going to be okay. To continue on with my point in civil liberties, quiet prayer in schools at times. I mean, you see the news stories, and it's almost impossible to find the case law, because the majority of the time you see this I see this news story and I go, oh, I was going to do a report on it, include these in my report, but the vast majority of the time you see the follow-up story where the school goes, oh, well, we just brought him back in, and we're ignoring, we're going to take that off their record because the child quietly, did this just before lunch and picked their head up, and the kids asked, what are you doing? Oh, I was just praying before my meal. Starts eating, not telling them about their personal experience with religion, not trying to get the kids to come to church with them, none of that, just praying before my meal. You're expelled! There was a report done talking about this by Andrew Coulson, who is the director of the Center for Educational Freedom at the Cato Institute, and he made a presentation to the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on the Constitution, Civil Rights, and Human Rights concerning zero tolerance policies in December of 2012. And he talked about the American Indian Model Charter Schools, AIM, and how they're located in Oakland, California. And they serve a populace composed primarily of East Asian, Hispanic, and African American children. And, they have almost zero problems with the older kids. The new kids coming in from other districts, they have a problem with, but right off the bat, they're learning from the other students and from the teachers, we don't tolerate this. A child acts up in class, They get sent to the principal's office where they receive in-house suspension if necessary. What they do is they take these kids and they go, okay, why are you misbehaving in class? And they find out, oh, well, you're behind in your reading or you're behind in your math. And so they take them during their in-house and they move them through the different grades, get them up to speed to where they should be. And so by the time, these are kids entering middle school, so by the time they go into the high school component, they're ready for high school. They come to school, they're proud of coming to school, they're proud of who they are, because the teachers aren't just sitting there trying to grind them down and say, here, read this or watch this video and take a nap while they're gaining their tenure. These are educators who are genuinely interested in the children in the classroom, and they feel empowered to teach because they know there is a program in place that supports them when they say, no, you don't get to do this, you have to do your work. Okay, well, you're not going to disrupt the classroom, you're going to go over here and you're going to work with these people now. There's no throwing them out onto the street and saying, well, go learn how to behave. That doesn't work, and it's proved time and again. If you want proof that it doesn't work, look at most public schools. Look at these huge public schools full of thousands of kids, and you see there's this a few of them that are just because of drugs, dysfunction in the family, maybe they have a learning disability that nobody's been able to clue in on, or they've just fallen through the cracks and they're just not up to speed. Or you've got a really bright kid who should be a grade or two ahead and they're acting up. So we need to stop trying to fit kids into a box. We need to quit putting these one-size-fits-all solutions onto children, because we are not a one-size-fits-all species. We are vastly different, and we have our different thoughts and attitudes, and that's what makes us so unique and great. Now, something else I mentioned earlier was the school to criminal justice system pipeline, and that is part of the zero tolerance policy problem as well, because you are criminalizing kids who should not be criminalized. There was a young man I was reading about, 14 years old, dumb kid, did a dumb thing. Okay, 14 years old, takes a pen. It's like a clicker pen, like this. Takes one of these. Okay, gives it one of these. Right. Okay, takes it apart, and he gets a hold of these little plastic BBs, like airsoft BBs, right? That'll fit in the pen. And he starts going at other students, generally being a nuisance, but not being a problem, right? He is expelled. He is arrested for having a weapon, a projectile weapon, in school. This kid was in ROTC. He was on his way to getting into the Naval Academy. He did something, I admit, stupid. Behave yourself. But he did not deserve to be arrested. He did not deserve, well, the rule is zero tolerance. Well, people, think beyond the box. Think outside that. Oh, well, that was a weapon. No, it wasn't. It was a pea shooter. I could have done just as much damage with a straw and dry peas. Seriously. That is what used to be called a pea shooter. It's silly. You take this kid, you make him clean up the mess, you make him go and apologize to people, you give him an in-house suspension, you hand him over to the ROTC officers, tell him what they did, and they'll probably make him scrub floors and run and do things, and he'll go, you know what, by the time ROTC officers were done with him, by the time he was done with the in-house suspension, cleaning up the mess, having to apologize to everybody, having to deal with his parents at home, he would have been like, okay, I am not going to do that again. I'm not going to be stupid ever again. And that is really how it should have been handled. This kid should not have been suspended. He should not have been drug into jail. He should not have been fingerprinted like a criminal and having a mugshot taken of him, and he can't go back to school. Now he's being homeschooled, and his career path as an officer has been destroyed over a pea shooter. You need to teach your kids some things about civil liberties. You need to look at them and say, okay, what you need to do is when they say, I want to search you, say, with all due respect, I refuse and I want my parents. With all due respect, I refuse and I want my parents. Because if you have a school with a zero tolerance policy, they can strip search you. They will try. Some districts will strip search your child. The idea of searching lockers, search away, you know. When it comes to searching backpacks, sure, here's my backpack, here's my coat. Go to the nurse's office and take off your clothes. No, I refuse, I want my parents. And if your child just feels like, you know, I've been singled out for no reason, teach them. They have the right to have you there. You need to teach them to say, no, I refuse, I respectfully refuse, I want my parent here. And I know that sounds like the what you say when you're guilty and you've done something, but it's not. It's not at all. Because many times in our pursuit of truth, many times in our want and desire to find the facts, we lose sight of what's actually going on, and we get ourselves invested and we make mistakes. And it's best to have somebody there, who is watching out for the person's interests, who is there to make sure that we are doing it the way we're supposed to do. For if I was investigating a child, I would call their parents and I would want them there, just to cover me, just to make sure I am not having, to make sure that when it all comes up, if things go south and I wind up in a courtroom, I can say, yes, I had their first thing I did is I called their parents, and then I followed these steps and I did things as I was supposed to do, so that they can't say, well, you interrogated a child without representation. And that's happens a lot with zero tolerance. Children get interrogated, they feel fearful, they they'll tell an adult anything to get out of that room, and that is not acceptable. And people who are in education, people who work with kids, do know that, and it's just unacceptable. So thank you for listening to me talk. If you have any questions, any thoughts, I went ahead and I will be posting the links to the case law I used down below, and posting the links to the case law down below, a few news articles, as well as the statements from the gentleman to the subcommittee from the Cato Institute. So thank you very much. Once again, Professor Montalvo-Gesser. I appreciate this opportunity to share my views with the class, and I have appreciated and have enjoyed my time in your classroom, and I have learned a lot. Thank you very much, and have a great day.